Again, if it were simple, what it'll look like, it goes back to this pyramid, and get ready to take a lot of pictures because I'm going to go very fast. Cool? All right, so we're going to spend the next little bit on this. So like I said, this whole thing here, going back to this whole thing here, we spent a lot of time on. We've systemized the heck out of this stuff. All our processes go through this as much as possible. And right now, we're compiling it together just so it's a little bit easier for people to get access to it if they want it. So check it out. Business strategy. Where I'm going to go over this for a second is that I'm going to skip this. I want you guys to take a picture of these pictures. Picture of this slide for a second. And pretend like you started from scratch. There's going to be a number of slides where it's just a bunch of questions that you're going to have to ask yourself later in your business. And really challenging yourself with where you want to go with this. So we never did this. When I went full-time and just went crazy with real estate, started back in 2010, I never asked these questions. I just did what made money. And the people that were around me, we were doing REO, right? Real estate owned properties, foreclosures, all that stuff. It was a wild, wild west in 2010 to 2015 when it comes to REOs and bank owned properties. It's crazy. We'll probably never see that again. But I was just doing anything that would make money, because I didn't want to be broke. There's a big difference between growing up broke and not wanting to be broke versus growing up broke and wanting to be wealthy. There's a big difference between wanting to be wealthy versus not wanting to be broke. You guys with me? My entire mentality, because I grew up poor, was I don't want to be broke. Then I switched it, okay, I want to be rich, which is still very different than being wealthy. Okay? And I never asked myself why we were doing this business ever, other than making money. So I kind of had a quarter-life crisis. I hope it's a quarter-life crisis. In end of 2017, one reason why Thatch Nguyen's here is because he's somebody that changed my life. In 2017, he basically sat down and said, all right, I was burnt out. I was totally just hating everything we did. I had a bunch of overhead with staff. In 2016, I made a bunch of money. And in 2017, I made the same amount of money, but yet we did more deals and I had more staff because I had more overhead. We did more business, more work, more everything. But because I'm selfish, right, still made the same amount of money as we did 2016, doing less. It's just because I thought we had to keep doing more. Does that make sense? So I was like pissed. Our project manager was stealing from us. Basically, he was taking a bid. Like say we had a $4,000 budget on an item. He'd get that thing down to $2,000 and then still have the contractor charge us $4,000 and he'd take the difference. Right? We find that out, and that was like somebody I trusted, right? Everything. So all these things are happening. I'm just really upset. And Thatch kind of says like, well, have you ever thought that most of us build our businesses, and then whatever life we have left over for personal life, we try to fit our business. Well, why don't you just like figure out what you want to do with your life and your personal life, and then build a business that fits that? I didn't know you could do that. I was like it literally was like a lightning bolt hit me when he said that, and I hit up my wife immediately. I'm like, we need to sit down, and we need to talk, right? And we spent the next few weekends with big white butcher paper on an easel asking questions. What do we want in our lives? How do we want to make our money? What impact do we want to have out there in the community? How much business do we want to do? Where do we want to travel? Do we want a family or not? And we went through, we never did this before. Went through everything, spent weeks and weeks and weeks, and we made these massive, the number one thing we wanted, was to be together all the time. That's weird for some of you guys, right? So we wanted to be together all the time. And we also wanted to travel as much as we wanted. I wanted to be able to run my entire business from my phone. Right? I still needed a computer a little bit, but I wanted to run my entire business from my phone, and I wanted to be able to travel wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, with whoever I wanted, which is freedom, right? And I wanted to be able to have a lot less stress in the business and be with my wife all the time. So after we wrote this stuff out, right, I said, okay, what's the first thing that needs to happen? Now my wife, for her, she had a great job, right? She loved it, right? She worked for a tech company, and she never wanted to rely on a man or anything like that, right? Which is why she always handled her own stuff. And then when we wrote this thing out, she looks at me and says, I need to quit my job. I'm like, when are you going to do that? She's like, tomorrow. I'm like, all right, let's go. So so she did that. And that was Thanksgiving 2017 or whatever it was. So we do all that. And the other aspects we did is we wanted to do events like this. We were already doing one, and we wanted to raise more money for charity because we want to do a charity event. You guys will see that tomorrow. Fixated Events has raised almost $1 million for charity just doing those things already. And that was a big thing to us while we were building and growing this business. But what it really meant, the moral of the story was this. This is the hard part for some of us to accept. We had to do less. So we had to go down. We went down from doing 27, 28, 24, whatever projects at a time to no more than 10. Can't do more than 10. And we changed everything that way. What did that also mean? It meant we had to make less money. So how do you go from making a bunch of money and being okay to making half that? Most people don't want to do that. But what did that making less money gave me more freedom because I didn't have to do as much work, and I was totally cool with that. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. So that long story has more to do with figuring out what is it that you really want in your business personally, and are you building the business that you actually want to be working in? Are you going to be active or passive in your business? Are you going to be an LP and something to be passive, single family, whatever, it doesn't really matter? Or are you going to be active and actually working? Do you want to be full-time in real estate, making all your income, or do you want to just supplement your income for retirement? These things are super important. And as you go through this, what exactly are you going to do? What will you not do? What are the non-negotiables that you just won't do? I'm not going on an appointment with a seller. My entire business relies on me I'm never going to the property if I can avoid it. The only reason why I would go is just because I'm curious. But I don't want to go to it. So these are non-negotiables to me to build these businesses. So starting from scratch, these are a lot of questions. So take a picture of this. These are all business questions. Where am I investing? What am I investing in? What are my resources? What resources am I missing? What volume will I do? I can promise you most of us don't ask these questions, right? So if business foundation, which is the whole point of that foundation part, if we don't know what these things are, we're just going to do whatever shiny penny is coming around us and makes sense, makes money, right? But what does that mean? So the more clear we become, this isn't overnight. This takes time. You just mess some things up, come back to it, but constantly come back to these questions. So if you have that business strategy, then that makes your acquisitions go a little bit sooner. So it goes back to this, investment business or acquisitions business. Which one are you? In my opinion, if you're going to do both, they should be, this is my opinion only, it should be two separate businesses. You can actually have an acquisitions business that sells to your investment business. I think it's a great idea. There's people that do very well at that. And if you're really good at acquisitions, cool. Maybe you should just partner with people on the investment side, right? So there's some aspects there, even on the legal side, that I think you should explore. So which one are you? Because that's going to determine how you build the rest of your processes. So this is what we do because we're an investment business. This comes from our Asana, right, that I talked about. Asana, if anybody use Asana, anybody use that? It's basically just a project management software. And if you buy it tomorrow, like as a membership or whatever, or get the free version, it's just going to be a checklist, and you're going to be like, this is stupid. It doesn't look anything like Tarl's. So you have to build it. So this is ours, right? So anytime we do a property, like if you see up there, it says acquisition template, right? So before we buy a property, there's a checklist that we have to go through. If you go through this one right here, completed property analysis, we have to analyze the property. This is just a checklist. Are we actually doing these things? The key is that we're documenting this stuff, right, as much as possible. These are the things that have to happen. You have to get full before pictures. We take 100+ photos, if not 200 photos of a property when we're there. It's the best way to do it. I think it's better than video because the pictures, if you take them the right way, you can see a lot with pictures. So we always do it. We want to pretend like we'll never go to this property again. It might be at one shot you'll ever get to this property, and you might only have 10 minutes to be in it. So if you do, take as many photos as possible. Big on that. My team came up with the name of the Analysis Super Sheet, the ASS, right? That's basically just a P&L for the most part. And meter pictures and Dropbox. Why do we have meter pictures? Anybody have issues with utilities, or especially single family? We have so many utility companies that said they're like, tell us the meter reading. Like, you tell us the meter reading. Why are we telling you the meter reading? So we just started taking pictures of the meters and just forget about it. Like, those are one of those like documenting things later that we're like, man, we keep being asked this. So we go through all this stuff, and if we're doing that, and also the red flags checklist, floor plans. Floor plans are easy. This is Nate. Nate drew this. Give him a hand next time that you see him. This is Nate's handiwork, yes. With pictures, this kind of gives us an idea of what the first floor looks like for the most part. And we can make quick decisions. Red flag list. This doesn't mean that like all these things have to be good. That just means that we have to have pictures of it or see it just to kind of check it off. You can always hire homeowners inspectors for all this stuff and skip this whole thing together. Even if we hire a homeowner inspector, we're still going to go through all this stuff. So get to know fast. So this has to do with your buying criteria. So what's your buy box? Like, what is it? So if you get to know fast, you're going to be able to say yes a lot sooner. So these are some questions that you got to ask yourself for your buy box. If you know what you say no to, then it's so much better. If your buy box, if the property you're looking at doesn't meet your buy box, why are you looking at it? It's that fast, right? If you do I do single family. If somebody sends me an 800-unit apartment complex, I'm not looking at that shit. So if somebody sends me a 10-unit apartment complex, I'm like, that's not my thing, right? We're just not going to do it. If somebody had to send me a property with 10 tenants in it, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Like, how do you kick them out so we can fix stuff without like breaking the law? Like, that's not our process. We need single family. That's what we do. So what's your asset class? What's your size, your geography, minimum target margin, level of rehab, max? There's so many other things for your buy box that you can add to this. These are just some basic ones. This was mine that I did for years and years and years, and that's it. So this has to do specifically with Tacoma, Seattle area, but it doesn't really matter where we go. It's pretty much the same buy box for the most part. It might change a little bit based on, probably construction size and some aspects when we go into different aspects. The only thing that changed years later was the level of rehab. We made this buy box in 2018, but instead of $125,000 max, we raised that to $150 later because of inflation and costs and whatnot. It's the same rehab in Seattle, believe it or not. And then 6 months less, and then the 10, we never got away from the 10. We reduced that down. And the final thing is just the gut check. So many projects that I hated us doing that I wish we never bought because my gut was like, ugh. So now, at the end of the day, the final kind of pass all kind of things, like if we're not excited about the deal, why are we doing it? Cool. So you get to funding and transaction coordination. Now, nobody likes this one. This has to do with systems. So you need to figure out a way, or we all need to figure out a way to how to systemize our transaction coordination. This could be a pain in the butt the more volume you do, right? Especially if you're the one that has to sign everything. One of the coolest things I ever did was I gave an attorney a power of attorney to sign for me. And it happened to be our escrow closer, so that was even better. So I'm like, sweet, I don't need to show up for signings anymore. She just sends me an email, the doc, saying, can I sign these? I'm like, yep. And then she signs them and I don't show up to closings. That's cool, right? I have to pay a few $100 every time she does that, but that's great when you're traveling the world and you don't need to find a notary, right? Something cool. You guys might want to test that out sometime. It's a lot of fun. Best thing ever. Funding and so forth. These are the different things you could fund. Now, the reason why I put that list on is you have to have a process for lending, especially if you're doing volume. So for us, I'm going to pitch you on one thing, even though I'm supposed to sell. I have a hard money company, right? So we have fixated funding that's over there. We're the diamond sponsor, I could say this. But we also, in order to kind of get a little bit better with this, we decided to also start fixated capital, which is where we can also raise capital and also buy more properties. But in addition to that, we can partner with operators. So we're looking for some joint venture deals. If you're interested in that, go ahead and talk to Fixated Capital. But in a nutshell, it's about processing each one of these things out so it happens fast for you and you're not being gummed up, especially if you're doing a bunch of refis. This type of stuff can really weigh you down if you're not liking paperwork. Even if you just put all your documents in one Dropbox folder, that's the first thing that I would recommend anybody to do is just collect all your documents, whatever you need, and keep it in a Dropbox folder or something like that. All right, planning. That's where everybody skips. Why is planning so important? I talked about it a little bit earlier. If you plan the property out and you do it effectively, then the rest of the rehab goes pretty smoothly. There's always going to be an issue, so you can't get away from that. Okay? There's always going to be an issue, though. So most of us skip through this, though. So why do we rush through this or skip through it? A lot of it's because time is money, right? We buy a deal, right? We got hard money on it, right? And they're charging you 10, 12%, whatever it is, and we're like, let's go! Let's go knock that wall down. Let's go tear that kitchen out. Let's just go, 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 go. Like time is money, time is money, time is money. And then you rip everything out and you realize, oh crap, I shouldn't have ripped that out, right? Oh, that was a load-bearing wall, oh my God. Or maybe you seal stuff up later and you realize that there's something wrong with the plumbing and it wasn't taken care of, or you'll have a sheetrocker come in and close up all the electrical outlets and you don't know where they are because you didn't take any pictures. Like all these things that just start adding issues to the project because we rush through it. And it's because time's money. We don't want to pay that interest rate, or we're just so excited and we want to get after it. So everyone's, in my opinion, if you're going to have any planning that you got to work on, right, these are the 4 things that you should at least have a system for on the planning phase. Your final scope of work, SOW, right? What's your statement of work, scope of work, whatever side of the world you're on that says that. Budgets, how do you manage your budgets? Finishes, this is a big one for us. If your contractor calls you up on a Tuesday and says, I'm ready for tile tomorrow, and you're like, cool, let me go figure out what the tile is going to be. That sucks. I'm just saying that. Don't do that. So have it. Why pick out the tile last minute? Why not pick it out at the beginning of the project? You just get the finishes out of the way, right? And have a process for it. And don't overcomplicate it. You're not living in this house or this project. Keep it simple. Fix up what sells. And then onboarding contractors and bid requests. This is a big one for sure. Leverage technology. These are the 3 things we use for everything. Dropbox, Smartsheet, Asana. I'm going to go really fast because I'm apparently telling too many stories. I got 8 minutes left. All right. Dropbox is file storage. That's where we put all the pictures. That's where we put all the documentation. I think I'll show you guys later a picture of a Dropbox folder for us and how it looks like. But pretty much every single property has the exact same Dropbox. You can use Google Drive. It doesn't matter. Either one. I like Dropbox better. Smartsheet we use for our scopes of work and our finished packets. Smartsheet is an overpriced Excel spreadsheet that does a lot of really cool shit, but most of us will probably never do it. I don't know why we still pay for it, but I think it's awesome. I actually really like it. And then Asana is where we do our project management. So we do project management through Asana. We do all of our statements of work and our finished stuff and kind of like our really required, our accounting actually through Smartsheet too, believe it or not. And then Dropbox is file storage. All these programs we've used and they all work great. So pick one. One last story on this one. There will never, ever, 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 ever be a technology that does everything for you in real estate. And the reason why is because you do it different than me. You do it different.